by popular demand, if you guys actually requested me to do this, this is iCarly week as part of my May schedule, and for how many times I canceled the idea on doing a month or a marathon dedicated to iCarly, this was definitely a long time coming. But at the same time, that means a lot of sacrificing involving reviewing potential episodes, but at the same time, I'm doing what I could. So anyway, for the first episode that I'm reviewing for iCarly week is iWant a World Record. The iCarly gang reached the Jonas World Records, which is a parody of Guinness World Records in the real world, and they want to beat the record of longest web show. The longest is 24 hours. And they should, and the show has to be continuous, otherwise they will be disqualified. Let me tell you that with this being from the first season, they really want to do everything in order to make the iCarly web show plot a lot more relevant, unlike in the later seasons, which is really disappointing since that technology has improved after this episode. So in order to make all this happen, they had to come up with so many ideas in order to break the world record of Jonas. And let me tell you that for an episode that is mainly about the characters completely doing so many things at one time, while all the while doing it for 22 minutes, well, almost 22 minutes, this episode actually does a good job on making a simple plot extended to a whole length of 22 minutes, because the only subplot that you can actually say when it comes to this episode is Spencer building a new sculpture, which ends up backfiring on the main cast of how they worked in order to reach the record, only to lose at the end. But at the same time, this episode is a really good episode, regardless of what you think. The comedy in this episode is just good. Let me tell you that this is basically the best comedy when it comes to the charisma from the main characters from the show. The way they react to not stopping the web show, while also completely doing so many different things, while being extremely tired by doing the web show, while staying awake through the majority of it, it's honestly pretty much comedy at its best when it comes to Dan Schneider. Admittedly, the comedy isn't as better as the other episodes involving Drake and Josh, or any other episode from iCarly, but on the other hand, it's still good for what it is, especially the amount of activities that the iCarly gang are trying to do in order to reach the record of longest web show of reaching 24 hours. And 8 minutes, but who's counting at this point? This is going to be a difficult time to keep track on the amount of hours that the characters have to do in order to reach the world record. I will probably feel the same way if I ever did something like this. But let's get into the bit where this episode becomes funnier, but also what we usually do in real life. They do this bit of tech time with Freddy, which is literally one of the only times where Freddy can actually do something in iCarly with the amount of time that they have. But then when they decide to do random dancing or just completely make fun of Freddy, Sam bumps into Freddy, which causes him to drop the light bulb that he was about to show to all the audiences of iCarly. Construction workers get inside the studio because there's a gas leak or because of the light bulb that Freddy dropped. And they mistaken that it could cause a huge fire in the facility that they're in right now. And this is where the comedy can actually work out, but this is also where the real situation of what could actually happen if you're trying to break a world record and be part of Greatest World Records, or Guinness World Records, or Jonas World Records, whatever. Anyway, they try to get out of the apartment because of the gas leak situation, and when Carly said that this is the first time where iCarly goes mobile, which does happen in some other episodes afterwards, I can guarantee you that the stress that Spencer is dealing with is honestly believable. And then when we completely see the construction people saying that they can go in because there's no gas leak whatsoever, they end up going back upstairs regardless. You know, Spencer may be the butt of jokes in this episode and all with other episodes, but on the other hand, it's actually humorous on the fact that he's just trying to help his sister and his friends in order to completely have them break the record. All the while, little did Spencer knowing that the sculpture that he's making is also breaking another record from the Jonas World Records. But we're gonna get to that later. Anyway, after 18 hours, Sam, Freddy, and Carly are completely tired after doing the web show. And let me tell you that even though that the comedy is good, you can easily understand that they're really messing things up with the random dancing and makeup because they're extremely tired. And let me tell you, everyone will probably be in this situation regardless if they do a record similar to this. And what makes this even more better is that Spencer is completely tired by building a sculpture. So Sam decides to throw an air horn by using duct tape into the elevator, and then once arriving at the apartment, it completely wakes up Spencer. So much. It's honestly one of the ways to wake up someone after sleeping for so long, and I can guarantee you that that's probably one of the best moments from the first season of the show. Well, when it comes to comedy at least. And as for the resolution in order to stay on track of the web show, they dump their heads into a bucket of cold ice water, which actually makes them completely awake. Seriously, if I ever try that, I would probably stay up all night and completely make more videos. But then again, I will probably be mentally insane by completely doing so much schedules and nothing else. But then again, I don't go for world records, so I'm honestly not that insane enough to do any of this kind of stuff. As for the finale of the web show, they introduces Spencer's sculpture, which he completely adjusted with so much technology stuff into it. Let me tell you, when I say technology, this would lead to the downfall of the web show, of reaching a world record, that is, because when Spencer turned on his sculpture, it causes a power surge around the apartment, which causes Freddy's laptop to be shut down, which means that Carly and Sam are disqualified for reaching the record of 24 hours and 8 minutes. Let me tell you that after all that time and completely reaching the end only for Spencer to make a huge mistake by causing a power surge around the apartment, I would easily sympathize the main characters, unlike when it comes to serious arcs like the SETI arc, which is done terribly, among with other arcs involving Freddy saving Carly's life. If anything, it really makes this episode a lot more better if you completely look at this episode and completely forget about the amazing things of what this show did later on. Not saying that the great things are a bad thing when it comes to episodes like this. I'm just saying that the great episodes completely overshadow episodes like this. It's just similar with the Foster Home for Imaginary Friends episode, where the bad episodes overweigh the good episodes. And this, the only difference is that this episode is a really good episode, but it's being overshadowed by better episodes. Granted, if I did this as a month or a marathon, you will probably understand with the amount of episodes I have to review. But on the other hand, if the amount of episodes I'm reviewing for this month, you might understand why. So anyway, the girl who is the one in charge with the Jonas World Record of books, Melon, who is with her boyfriend, gives the exciting news to Spencer that even though that he disqualified his sister and his friends into breaking a world record, he actually broke another world record on making the biggest sculpture with so many things attached to it. Yeah. And the rules also state that if one person does an insignificant adjustment to one of the sculptures, they automatically create the sculpture, even the other person completely did the entire sculpture all by himself. So, Spencer has this idea to make it up with Carly and her friends by ingesting a single tool into the sculpture. And now they automatically made the sculpture with Spencer. And let me tell you, this is one of the best moments from Spencer when it comes to him not being mostly a comedy character than anything. it's just disappointing that as the series goes on, his finalization just ends up getting a lot more complicated for me to actually take him seriously. Granted, his comedy is better, not much compared to the first season, but on the other hand, I'm honestly disappointed that he gets finalized badly. And the episode ends with Sam excited to see the world's fattest priest, which is something that she is obsessed over through the majority of this episode, only to learn that he actually fell through the floor. That's actually kind of a good way to wrap up this episode, considering that he's the fattest priest in order to be part of the Jonas World Records. This episode is one of the best episodes from the first season, underrated at best. And let me tell you that everything that I've seen when it comes to the iCarly episodes and the fact that the revival is coming sooner than later, then let me tell you, I can guarantee you that they're going to take some inspirations from this episode. Granted, the main cast are old and they're not going to do something similar to what they did in this episode, but on the other hand, it is going to be a lot more interesting of what they can do if they do take some ideas from the original series of iCarly and then make them into a much more different episodes for a unique setting in the revival of iCarly. Granted, there's going to be a lot of changes when it comes to the revival, but at the same time, we don't know what to expect until we get some information or screenshots of the latest revival of iCarly. And let me tell you, it's going to be a long time coming, and I'm going to be looking forward to it. As for me reviewing the episodes from that, only time will tell if I actually have the interest, because like I said, there are so many episodes from the original that I need to keep track of if I want to take some inspiration by taking those ideals and then put my perspective on the revival of iCarly. And at the same time, we're only at the beginning of iCarly week, and we only have 4 episodes to review until this week is over. I'm Lonely Fanboy 4 here, and I'll see you more with iCarly week as we continue. As for this episode, I give it an 8 out of 10.
Let's get this started again. Me and my whole crew.